Hey guys, I know I just released a video on The Boys like a few days ago, but I will never not be pulled to talk about great writing, especially when there are hidden pieces to be unpacked. Season 4, Episode 4, The Boys, titled Wisdom of Ages, showed us probably the best, most disturbing Homelander sequence in the show, and I'm going to argue the reason it works so well is because it's rooted in both classic and contemporary horror. If you are new to the channel, I am Alex, a script and novel editor, as well as an author myself. You can find my editing services on my website, link down below. Aside from all that, I'm also a massive fan of horror. I think anytime a writer can make you feel something, that's the peak of artistic expression, and horror probably evokes the most visceral, primal feelings from us, which are fear and discomfort. It may not look like it at first, but so much of Homelander's amazing scenes from episode 4 seem to be directly analogous to the most famous horrors of our time. So let's jump into it.
Oh, God!
The first thing we can discuss is the setup of the entire scene, and how it takes cues from both classic and contemporary horror. We are going to start strong right off the bat. Let's take a look. This is just the start, but notice all the component parts. We have our characters, but they are unaware of what's coming for them. They're sitting ducks at the mercy of what seems like imminent danger. And during this waiting, we have the ever-growing tension coming from the audio cues, the dinging of the elevator, and the swelling music, until we get the big reveal. Great opening. And the reason it's a great opening is because it's tried and true. Take a look. It's all the same thing. Unaware sitting duck characters and tension-building audio cues. Wisdom of the Ages uses the Jaws formula to set the mood and tension for the scene. But it doesn't stop there. Many classic horrors are built upon sharing close proximity with a vicious, otherworldly entity. This is mainly about forced intimacy with the unknown, which naturally creates a sense of danger. A classic example of this is the action horror Predator, where our soldier characters must share a space with and are killed off by a predator. If we want to go further back, the straight horror The Exorcism has a malicious demon in the house with you, literally in the guest bedroom. But the next comparison actually might be the best, especially when talking about forced intimacy, and that's Alien. Take a look at this lab in the Wisdom of Ages. No windows, no sunlight, no one answering the telephone. It's completely cut off from the outside world. This scene with Homelander is super close to the premise of Alien. You are trapped in a confined space with a vicious killer, never knowing when the killing will stop or start. Much the same could be said about The Thing, or The Shining, or a host of other classic horror films that are about proximity to danger. But of course, it's not just the 20th century horrors in play. The influence of major modern horror is also here. The most easily recognizable is, of course, Saw. Homelander's tests and games are pulled straight out of Jigsaw's mind. The investigations into the past in a confined space are reminiscent of the autopsy of Jane Doe, and the ending of the episode, which sees horrific tragedy happen but somehow has it framed as happy and positive with a smile, that falls directly in line with films from horror titans Robert Eggers and Ari Aster. They end their films with the triumph of evil to wrap up the horror with a bow of impending dread. But the final piece of what makes the execution of the Homelander scenes so great is that they combine the elements with psychological horrors and psychological thrillers. Watching the scenes, I am reminded of the mental maze films like Babadook or Shutter Island or even Inception. Homelander's descent into this lab is synonymous with a descent into the recesses of his own mind to confront his childhood. Really, it's kind of like the horror allegory for someone sitting on a therapist's couch and peeling back the painful layers of their childhood trauma. And it's when Homelander believes he has gained closure that he's going back up the elevator, as if returning back to reality. And aside from just the overall setup and execution, we get homages to some pretty iconic villains. The forced intimacy that I was talking about is a hallmark of Homelander in Inglourious Basterds. We also get major vibes of the Joker from both Homelander's instability and his games. All in all, the scenes are just bathed in homages to some of the most lauded horror and psychological fictions of the past 100 years. But no good horror would work without a terrifying premise, the dark subject for which the horror bases its conflict. The best horror films, whether classic or contemporary, have a distinct premise relating to the deepest, most uncomfortable parts of the human experience. If we consider Jaws, Alien, or Predator, the premise plays upon being hunted. This harkens back to the most basic, primal fears that a person can have. Films like The Invasion of the Body Snatchers or Hereditary prey on our fear of the supernatural, specifically in the sense of losing control of our minds and bodies. Homelander scene, though, puts a new twist on another well-known horror premise, the corrupt child. See, our natural instinct as humans is to perceive children and childlike actions as innocent and harmless. Seeing a child that is dangerous or purposefully evil creates a perversion of our natural social outlook towards the young. This is why The Exorcist was so terrifying and enthralling to most. It depicted a little girl as a demon, and other famous fictions ran with this as well. The Omen, The Orphan, and The Children of the Corn all use corrupted, violent kids to make us squirm. Even a film like Brightburn bases its horror on fearing an ultra-powerful child. But Homelander's scenes take this one step further. Here, the horror premise is being trapped in a room with a violent man-child. It's very scary to be trapped with a grown man who has the emotional instability of a child, but now give that man laser eyes and super strength, and it's even scarier. Everything Homelander does in the scene builds up this premise because it's all so childlike. He walks in with a freaking ice cream cake and makes everyone eat it like a little kid at a party. He kills a man over a trash can basketball and then laughs at a guy for his dick. Homelander isn't just a schoolyard bully here. He is playing with these people, treating them like a kid with toys. 'Cause that's what he believes.
How many times do I have to tell you? They're only human, Ryan. Toys.
The episode just flat out states the horror premise towards the end.
No.
Did you come back here just to torment those people? Doesn't that feel a little small?
And that's actually going to bring us to the final part of this video, which is a discussion of the structure and narrative. And remember, if you like what you hear and want to hire me for editing services, click the link to my website down below. This scene is set up in 4 acts. Act 1 is our introduction, where Homelander arrives. Then each of the next 3 acts is a delivery of backstory, which ends in killing. And understanding this structure is really important in understanding the story of the scene as a whole. See, when Homelander enters, we see a picture on the wall. Aside from Dr. Vogelbaum, who we've seen earlier, these people in this picture are the major characters of the scene, who Homelander will talk to. He starts with Frank, the lowest on the totem pole. Homelander delivers his backstory about how inhumanely he was treated. Frank apologizes, but it doesn't matter. Homelander uses the same info from the story to hurt Frank in return. And from here, the horror is set. We watchers get what's coming next. Then Homelander goes after Marty, the next highest up. The same structure is followed as in the previous act. Homelander delivers backstory about Marty's harsh treatment, Marty apologizes, it doesn't matter, and then Homelander makes Marty feel just how bad he felt when he was younger. But Act 4, the final scene, is where things switch up. Barbara arrives, the director, and she immediately speaks to Homelander like an authority figure.
Hey, whoa, whoa, you're getting dick blood off my boots, Marty!
Stop it, John.
Barbara.
Instead of Homelander delivering backstory, Barbara does. She tells him things that he never knew about himself.
I was there the day that you were born. They paid some poor runaway $2,000 to carry the embryo to term.
And here is where we get our narrative and character climax. The story of these scenes, while written like horror, is also a tragedy. Homelander doesn't want to be considered human. That's why he doesn't want to be called John. That's his human name, the name linked to his horrible, traumatic past.
Hello, everyone. Hey, good to see you.
You too. Homelander.
Homelander is his new, powerful identity. But the irony is that Homelander is punishing the people of this lab for not being human enough. He thinks they should have saved him. He thinks they should have had the basic human decency to help him.
Not one of them had the backbone to stand up and say, this is wrong.
Because they were scared.
I was a child.
They were scared.
But the further ironic tragedy is that Homelander finds out that the scientists don't think of him as human, which is what he thinks he wants. But they don't think of him as a hero either. They think he's a monster, and they always have.
But you lasered her guts open from the inside. You rose in the air with your umbilical cord still attached like some creature out of myth or nightmare.
Homelander never had a chance at love because from the time of his birth, the people that raised him never thought he was capable of being loved. They could not find it in their hearts to have compassion for a child born into captivity. The true horror of this scene is realizing that Homelander is not the only monster in the lab. All the rest of these people who willingly experimented on children, they are just as responsible for his behavior as Homelander himself. It's why the scene is so complex and interesting. Sure, these people are dying horribly, but they are only dying because of the monster they made. And of course, Homelander wouldn't want to be considered human because these are the humans he was raised by. In his young mind, this was the standard for humans, and why would he ever want to be like them? And in the fourth act, we see Homelander smile, covered in blood, as he has achieved closure by killing the last pieces of his childhood. These scientists represented not only the unfinished business tying him to his past, but they were also the links to his humanity and need for love. I wager that going forward, we're going to see a completely different Homelander. He killed all those people except for Barbara. Just like the others, he forced her to endure what he endured as a child, this time being the bad room. But there's another reason that I believe Barbara lived.
I really do want to share with you why I called this the bad room.
It's because she never apologized, and she never showed fear. Up to this point, Homelander never harms authority figures who don't fear him. He didn't harm Vogelbaum.
I'm the world's greatest superhero.
You're my greatest failure.
He didn't harm Stan Edgar.
You are not worthy of my respect. You are not a god. You are simply bad product.
And he didn't harm Barbara. But once you fear him, all bets are off.
I said I'm scared.
Of
you. I'm scared of you.
Thank you. Thank you for finally being honest.
I think it's cool that even in the midst of this horror short story, the writing of the show still remains so true to his character. Now, it's time to see how his character evolves even further by being untethered.
You can't go around feeling bad about what you are because a few things break. Who cares? You are destined for so much more. You understand? You're chosen, young man. Sooner or later, you got to accept it.
Anyway, thanks for watching all the way until the end. If you like what you heard, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you really want to be a homie, check out my Patreon, go to my website, hire me on as your editor, or check out my second channel, where I go over just random crap that comes across my mind, a link in the description below too. Also, check out our Patreon if you want to contribute. I think I might have said that already. You can edit that out, or maybe keep it in. Anyway, it was a pleasure, and I'll talk to you all again soon.